Nama saya Dinda Zabira Putri. Sekarang saya ingin men-interview teman saya yang selain menjadi student, mahasiswa, dia juga memiliki pekerjaan. Oke, so namanya siapa?
Nama saya Anissa Ramadina Putri, but you can call me Nisa.
So, kerjaan apa yang kamu sekarang jalanin sembari kuliah?
Actually, I have a clothing line, atau mungkin orang-orang kenal butik juga, dikenal butik juga. Itu ngejual especially baju-baju untuk perempuan, dan ada beberapa aksesoris juga.
How do you cope with kerja sembari kuliah?
Cara atur waktunya, jadi untuk weekday aku luangin semua waktunya untuk kuliah dulu, tapi untuk weekend semuanya aku pakai untuk kerja.
Terus di pekerjaan ini apa aja rintangan yang kamu lewatin?
Sebenarnya kalau untuk small business rintangannya belum terlalu banyak, tapi karena aku bikin butik, jadi aku harus kerja sama orang lain, dan mungkin yang paling sering terjadi problemnya adalah miscommunication.
Kalau boleh tahu, siapa role model kamu yang bikin kamu bisa bikin bisnis sambil kuliah sekarang?
Role model aku itu Putri Tanjung, karena aku lihat dia tuh have many privilege dari her parents, tapi dia tetap mau berjuang sendiri buat dapat pekerjaannya sendiri.
Oke. Thank you, Nisa.
Thank you too.
Ibu udah berapa lama Bu jualan di Takor?
Kalau saya dari tahun
2000.
2005 ya.
Lama ya. Oh, 2005.
2005, tapi kalau misalnya dari Bapak itu tahun 80-an.
80-an.
80 semenjak dulu masih di hutan. Di Rawamangun, ya di Rawamangun ya. Di sini dulu masih hutan. Terus katanya belum jadi kantin kayak gini, di tenda jualannya.
Ibu siapa Bu namanya Bu?
Saya Santi.
Ibu Santi
Ya?
suka dukanya apa Bu selama berdagang di Takor?
Ada yang ngutang nggak Bu?
Iya.
Dulu mah sering.
Pengalaman unik Bu.
Katanya dulu ya, kata bapak. Ini kan dulu kan teh kan dijajarin, udah diisiin es, ya ngambil. Terus kalau ada yang makan ya langsung dibawa gitu.
Lupa bayar.
Nggak tahu lupa bayar. Tapi kalau misalnya dia udah sukses, kadang-kadang suka kesini ngasih lebih. Gitu. Alhamdulillahnya. Ada yang ingat.
Ada
yang pernah ngasih amplop.
Widih.
Ini
Bayar
bayar
dulu.
utang.
Oh my god.
Terakhir nih Bu, menurut Ibu arti fisik UI bagi Ibu sendiri apa?
Semangat Bu.
Itu apa ya? Ya mencari rezeki buat kita semua pedagang.
Iya.
Jadi Ibu bangga nggak Bu berjualan di Takor Bu?
Bangga ya. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah ya Bu ya.
Iya, begitu kan di sini kan lumayan lah. Anak-anaknya juga pada ramah-ramah semua.
Iya. Pastinya sih ramah ya kan UI.
Iya,
Anak fisik gitu loh.
Oke udah ya.
Oke, baik Bu.
Iya,
Makasih ya Bu.
makasih sih.
Sukses
Iya.
terus ya Bu.
Iya, makasih. Dadah.
For this part, I'm going to explain about social structure. Social structure is the organized set of social institution and patterns of institutionalized relationships that together compose society. Social structure is both a product of social interaction and directly determines it. Social structure are not immediately visible to the untrained observer. However, they are always present and affect all dimensions of human experience in society. It is also helpful to think about social structure as operating on three levels within a given society: the macro, meso, and micro levels. There are also an example for social structure such as status and norms.
Status is an idea people build in usage of their everyday life. It also a social position a person has in the society. Our social identity comprises of status, which also serves to characterize how we associate with others. Status set versus master status. Status set refers to every status that a person possesses at a certain time. And as time passes, their status set may shift. Master status is a social status that is particularly significant for social identity and frequently influences a person's life. There are both positive and negative sides of master status, where usually a person with significant diseases, such as AIDS or physical disabilities, are typically dehumanized and exclusively perceived as only having those conditions. There are also a notion about gender, where a woman is included as a master status. Why? Because in society, women have constraints in terms of chances. Ascribe and achieve status. Ascribe status is something a person acquire unwillingly while they are born or later in their life. And achieve status is a social position someone accepts deliberately that is a product of one's abilities. In all, most statuses in the actual world merge ascription with achievement. So both of ascribe and achieve status are all combined into one and serve as someone's status.
A role is expected behavior of someone who holds a certain status. Different cultures may affect statuses and roles. For example, uncle in the US and in the Philippines. In every society, actual role performance varies with an individual's unique personality, and some societies permit more individual expression of a role than others. Everyday life is a mix of several roles because we hold multiple statuses all at once. The roles that are shown is to define their lives differently depending on the society. What we perform is defined by the various roles connected to each status. Role conflict is a disagreement between roles that are tied to two or more different statuses, like when we are pushed in different ways while attempting to respond to the many positions we hold, we undergo role conflict. It can be resolved by deciding that something has to go. Role strain describes conflict between the roles related to a single status. It can be a balanced act to portray all the roles that come with even one status, separating several aspects of our lives so that we play roles related to one status at one time and place another status in a totally different context is a tactic for reducing role conflict. The process by which individuals leave significant social roles. Access must restore contact with those who knew them in their previous years, and an additional barrier is picking up new social skills. Eba pointed out the parts that are involved in the process of becoming an ex. Exes are individuals who have reached a turning point in their lives when they decide to start again. A former role can continue to have an impact on their lives even while they are moving on. Exes carry a self-image shaped by a previous role with them, which can prevent them from developing a new sense of self.
Social construction. The process in which humans creatively construct reality from social interactions. Paulo Vino once presented an unusual self-introduction, where he stated that he presents himself in a way that is appropriate for the other person and the type of relationship he hopes to have with them. And he makes the claim that although status and role influence how we perform, both of these factors are within our control. The Thomas theorem approach. It implies that while reality is actually soft when it's being formed, the outcome may become hard. An instance is Spirit Thomas gained a recognition among the local gang members by acting in a very respectable manner where the other people become respectful to him. Ethnomethodology. Harold Garwinkle, 1967, introduced ethnomethodology to examine how individuals interpret their daily circumstances. It started by emphasizing the various assumptions that underlie daily behavior. For example, when someone asks about your day, you don't actually answer in depth, and it leads them to assume many of things. But you can actually breaking these rules by deviating from the usual and providing a detail of your whole day. And the outcome, it might probably confuse and irritate this person because answering a detail is actually an unexpected answer. Theory of reality building, class and culture. Main point of this is that humans construct their reality from the environment around them. It illustrates how various cultures interpret certain gestures differently, which make it possible for travelers that just came into someone's country to create an unwanted reality as they don't have the same culture. Shively presented a Western movies to men of European and Native American origin. Both of them enjoy the movies, but they all have perspective that is very different from one another. White males perceive the movie as glorifying individuals who ventured to the West and triumph over the elements of nature, while the Native American males perceive it as a celebration of the environment. Thus, it suggests that as individuals have two categories witness to distinct perspectives given by their diverse cultural backgrounds. The increased importance of social media. Social media is a tool that enables social interactions. Currently, in the digital era, computer-based technology is interactive, enabling people to convey information to others remotely without having to physically meet in one place. The rise of social media, according to some sociologists, has strengthened connections between individuals but diminished relationship between those who share physical space. For instance, a group of friends hanging out together, but rather than talking to one another, they preoccupy themselves with their phone and messaging other individuals that is actually not in the same area.
For this part, I'm going to explain about dramaturgical analysis, the presentation of self. According to Erving Goffman, a sociologist who analyzed social interaction, he explained that people live their lives much like actors performing on stage. If we imagine ourselves as directors observing what goes on in theater of everyday life, we are doing what Goffman called dramaturgical analysis. This offers a fresh look at the concepts of status and role. A status is like a part in a play, and a role serves a script, supplying dialogue and actions for characters. He described each individual's performance as the presentation of self. If you know about the movie called Truman Show, it also relates this aspect where his life is controlled by directors, so it is very similar to Erving Goffman concept. There are 5 aspects about the dramaturgical. The first one is performances. As we present ourselves in everyday situation, we reveal information to others both consciously and unconsciously. Our performance include how we dress, the objects we carry, and our tone of voice and gestures. In addition, we vary our performance according to where we are. We may joke loudly in a restaurant, for example, but lower our voice when entering a church, temple, or mosque. People design settings such as homes or office to bring about desired reaction in others. The second one is nonverbal communication. People use many parts of body languages to convey information. Facial expressions are the most important type of body language. Smiling, for instance, show pleasure, although we distinguish among the deliberate smile of kindly pretty on the beach, a spontaneous smile of joy at seeing a friend, a pained smile of embarrassment after spilling a cup of coffee, and the full, unrestrained smile of self-satisfaction that we often associate with winning some important contest. Eye contact is another key element of nonverbal communication. Generally, we use eye contact to invite social interaction. Someone across the room catches our eye, sparking a conversation. Avoiding other eye, by contrast, discourage communication. The third one is gender and performances. For both sexes, the concept of personal space refers to the surrounding area over which a person makes some claim to privacy. In the United States, people typically position themselves several feet apart when speaking. Throughout the Middle East, by contrast, people stand much closer. Just about everywhere, men, with their greater social power, often intrude into women's personal space. If a woman moves into a man's personal space, however, he is likely to take it as a sign of sexual interest. The fourth one is idealization. People behave the way they do for many, often complex reasons. Even so, Goffman suggests we construct performance to idealize our intention. That is, we try to convince others, or perhaps ourselves, that we do reflect ideal cultural standards rather than selfish motives. Idealization is easily illustrated by returning to the world of doctors and patients. In a hospital, doctors engage in a performance commonly described as making rounds, entering the room of patient. The doctor often stops at the foot of the bed and silently read the patient's chart, Afterward, doctors and patient talk briefly. In ideal terms, this routine involves a doctor making a personal visit to check on a patient's condition. And the last one is embarrassment and tact. Embarrassment is an ever-present danger because idealized performance usually contains some deception. In addition, most performances involve juggling so many elements that one thoughtless moment can shatter the intended impression. A curious fact is that an audience often overlooks flaws in a performance, allowing the actor to avoid embarrassment. If we do point out this tip, we do it quietly and only to help someone avoid even greater loss of face.
Interaction in everyday life focuses on 3 dimensions. Oftentimes, how we feel about something is more important than what we accomplish, since emotions are within. However, society also influences our emotions, which are an important aspect of the human experience in many ways. This is similar to how society influences our behavior. Culture does play an important role in guiding human emotions. What arouses emotions is determined by culture. They set standards for how to express emotions, and how we perceive emotions is also influenced by it. Sociologist Arlie Russell Hochschild notes that a normal employer works to control both the behavior and the emotion of its staff members. Our everyday interactions with people not only require surface acting, but also deep acting of emotions. We socially create our emotions as a natural part of our reality, a process sociologists refers to as emotion management. Members of a society are tied together through language to form a cultural web of symbols. Language has diverse definitions of power and value for men and women. The two sexes are valued differently by language as well. For instance, a major is more valued than a majorette. Language both reflects and supports social attitudes. For example, a guy uses a feminine pronoun to refer to a motorcycle because it symbolizes their ownership authority and to take charge of their environment. The social construction of reality gives rise to humor, which develops as people create and contrast two distinct realities, contradictions, ambiguities, and multiple meanings that can be discovered in several descriptions of the same circumstance give rise to humor. We can see why the punchline at the end of a joke is called that, since the essence of humor is the collision of reality. Getting the joke makes you an insider, compared to those who don't get it, as well as someone who doesn't understand it. The society has always included humor, but comedy rarely translates well since people around the world come from many cultural backgrounds. People laugh and grin all around the world, making comedy an essential component of daily living. The societal diversity in our own nation, various personality types will discover humor in various circumstances. Because it acts as a release valve for disruptive emotions, humor can be found wherever. Or to put it another way, comedy offers a suitable approach to talk about delicate subjects without coming across as serious or offending people. Humor is another tool used to decompress in uncomfortable circumstances. It can also be used to denigrate others. In cases where one or both sides prefer to keep the issue hidden, humor can be used to disguise real conflict. Ethnic conflict is one of the driving factors behind humor across the majority of the world. More than we might realize, comedy is crucial. It is a mental diversion from a world that is generally not to our taste.